Good day. There's Lainey. Doesn't sound like she's going to sleep. She's supposed to be going to sleep. I bet she's going to get in trouble. Man, oh, it's nice to be able to live in the big world and the small world at the same time. It's nice to be able to be present here and everywhere else. Sometimes it feels like you have to choose between being present where you are and being present where everything else is happening. But more and more I feel like I can do both. So that's good. Maybe I'm getting a hold of this. Maybe I'm grasping things. Or maybe I'm getting used to the fact that information's not meant to stay in one place. Information's meant to pass. It's meant to go through your hands and through your head and through your mouth, and you don't hold on to it, and you don't aggregate it, and you don't try to shape it into its own thing. You just spread it. You just don't stop it from spreading. You don't take and hold things. You take and share things. It works. It works. All right. So a duck. She must be playing a game with her Tony box. Trying to tell it that it's a duck. The animal is a duck. All right. It's Sunday night, 9:53 p.m. Tomorrow is Monday. Monday morning, some things are going to happen. I don't know what things. All right. Let's talk about. I need to talk about the moment that I'm living in, for the purpose of, in the future, looking back and seeing what was going on. Dear me in the future, tonight is January 31st, 2021. Tomorrow is February 1st, 2021. It's 9:53 p.m. and at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, the market will open and some things will begin to happen. And nobody is 100% sure what those things are, but many people have designs on 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, as well as, you know, the early morning hours when some people are going to be doing some trades before the market opens, and all weekend when people have been, average people have been sharing thoughts and perspectives with one another, and you know, people who actually have the means to do so are moving money around. The people that have the means to do so over the weekend are not normal people, but you know, there's business to be done, and there's businesses that do that business, so they're doing their business. They're doing their business. Anyway, there was a scene in Network when, I think his name was Jensen, the business owner, the owner of the network, calls Howard Beale into his boardroom, which he calls Valhalla, and tells him about the way the world works. The world is a business. That was the scene. And in that scene, he says, there will come a time when we will have a utopia, and that utopia's features are that everyone will have a share of stock. And that's, you know, that's an interesting thought. What are stocks? Let me see if I can wrap my head around this. A business opens. The business exists to produce some product that it sells to a customer. The customer likes the product, and they're willing to pay a certain amount of money for that product which they give to the business. The business has to make more selling the product than it did producing the product, as well as all of the other services that go into running the business. So if the business needs an office space and some electricity and internet and water and gas, and they need to run advertisements, and they need to purchase materials, and they need to pay employees, all of those things together need to make up less than the amount of money that they get from selling products. Otherwise, there's no real reason for them to be in business. They at least have to break even. So if what they really want to do is just do this business for no other reason other than it's what they want to do with their lives, then they at least have to break even. But really, a business should exist to make profit, and that profit is things that allow you to then grow. So anymore, it's very rare for us to have small businesses. I mean, small businesses do exist, but by and large, the ones you interact with are enormous. Most people don't really interact with small businesses. I mean, I order pizza sometimes from a place nearby that only has a couple locations. Let's see, when we order groceries through something like Instacart, which everybody uses, or we get our stuff from Target, which everybody goes to. I mean, smaller than Target, but still enormous is stuff like Wegmans. Let's see, what else? Amazon couldn't be any bigger. What are the companies that you interact with? You interact with companies that are everywhere and everything. And the reason for that is if somebody's providing a service, somebody else probably can find a way to provide that service more cost efficiently. And if they do, they can push you out of your position. Eventually, they can buy you out or buy your space, buy your employees, buy your company outright. Like one way or another, the company that does their business more profitably will win. They'll eventually have enough resources to move everybody else out of the way. So what does that mean, more profitably? If you're going to have like 20 businesses, at the end only one of them is going to make it, and it's going to be whichever one has the highest profitability, then it's worth knowing, all those other 19 businesses are going away, and now you just have this one and it's bigger because it was more profitable. So what makes something more profitable? Well, what makes it more profitable is that they pull more money in than they put out. So that means that the value that they create as a business has a higher percentage of which just goes into an account called profit. So that means that companies that are more profitable pay their workers less for the same work, or they have processes that allow for more efficiency, so that people do less work. Maybe they only need 5 people to do something as opposed to 17 at another company because their processes are more efficient. Maybe they buy less material, or maybe they buy material in a more efficient way. Maybe they own a part of the supply chain that moves the material around so that they don't have to pay that supply chain for the material. One way or another, they're finding ways to cut corners and therefore put more of their money into a bank account that eventually can be used to buy the employees, the space, or the entire company of their competitors. And they can place that money into advertising, they can place that money into outreach. In some cases, they can place that money into lobbying so that they have more rights, straight up rights, than other companies in their domain. So at the end of the day, what works is profit. And profit just means that the company more efficiently extracts the value from the process and from the workers and from the customers and from the product than its competitors, because and that extracted wealth goes somewhere else. And that extracted wealth that goes somewhere else allows for growth in a number of different ways. So eventually, what used to be 20, 30, 500 different companies eventually becomes one or a handful. This is sort of a natural phenomenon that we trying to find a way to avoid, I guess, with things like antitrust and breaking up monopolies and all that kind of stuff. But there seems to continue to be ways in which this can continue and fly below the radar. Well, anyway, that profitability is where you start, where you have an entry point to talk about what is stocks, or what is stocks, what is the stock market, what are stocks. So if you have a company, that company is going to be privately owned by someone up to a point. At some point, somebody's going to make the decision that they're going to take the company public. Now, why would that be? Why would they take a company public? Maybe they need money in order to take their next step. Maybe in order to do whatever it is that they intend to do, they're going to need a sudden windfall. And taking the company public and putting 5% of the company out there for other people to own is going to give them a shot in the arm that they need in order to make the acquisition or make the business change. And then from that point forward, they should start seeing more profit. But they just don't have the ability to do that at the moment. I think more often than not, it's an opportunity for the owner to say, I've made it, and I'm going to take this thing that I've made and I'm going to sell it for a certain amount of money, and I'm going to take that certain amount of money and I'm going to go live in comfort forever. Maybe, in my opinion, an initial public offering, taking a company public, might be sticking your flag and saying, the first phase has been complete. And the second phase is a little different. The second phase is more about, is less about the winding path that the company took, and it's more about, once you've reached this point, you're going to institutionalize all of the ways in which you are a profit-seeking company. So if you weren't that before, strap in, because your shareholders are now, going to start participating in how this company is run, and the shareholders are, venture capitalists or other, I don't want to use the word capitalist again. Like people who have a lot of money who want to see that money grow. Their job is to have the money, and as a thank you for having the money, they want more money. So, so then you start down this path that is pretty much just what are all of the solutions and ways and means and strategies that exist to allow a company to be more profitable. Unless the company is for some reason being chopped up into, maybe for some reason the shareholders are looking at this as an opportunity to make a quick buck, a la Gordon Gekko, or the short situation with GameStop and Melvin, where they were actually trying to bankrupt the company. Well, anyway, all of this money that gets sucked up out of the business process that makes this company profitable. And if it wasn't profitable before, then it's probably small. And if it was profitable before, then it's probably big. But either way, once it goes public, it is now responsible for being profitable, because the shareholders are the stakeholders in the company, and they demand that in return for the money that they put forward, they want more money. So profit is absolutely what needs to happen, which means that the profit, any money that can be put up in the shares needs to be taken through the process to the shares. So that means reduce worker pay. It means spend less on benefits. It means spend less on management. It means spend less on processes. It means invest in any sort of buy once infrastructure, or robots or things that allow you to make an expense once and then it never has to be paid again. It means making everything as price efficient as possible, including your materials, your supply chain, if you can buy up a competitor, and as a result of that, increase the profitability of your company. Whatever it is, whatever you can do, literally anything that you can do to extract, make a crappier product and sell it for more money, pay people less to make it, hire fewer people. It's about extraction. This is an extractive process. Let's take as much as we can out of this and put it up here. That's, making it more efficient, making it more profitable. That is, at this point, the goal of a company once it's being publicly traded. This has a lot of precedent in history. an extractive process that is as profitable as possible for the investors, and spends as little money as possible on the actual generating of the profit, and gives as gives the least amount of value possible back out the other end, is colonization. That's what colonization was about. You have a country that allows for business, or maybe they monopolize the business. Maybe the nation is the business, and they've commissioned some monopoly, an actual monopoly, back before that was a bad word, to go out into the world and bring them something. And so, in some cases, the state would fund it. In other cases, or the crown would fund it. In other cases, the people would find some people who were good at sailing, and they would open a business, and they'd get a boat, and a whole bunch of people would pay them some money to go out and get them more money. So this is the beginning of the share. This process is the shareholding, the share selling process, the going public, the stock market, the corporation, is reminiscent of, or I think calls back to, these, you want to go into some sort of global naval trade, and so you need a boat, very expensive. You need men, also expensive, and you need to be able to send them out and go get the things and come back. Well, the people who can do the work and who are willing to do the work probably don't have the money to buy the boat and finance the expedition. So if somebody else finances the expedition, and then the men get on the boat and they go, whatever they need to do to bring back these resources that can then be sold, and then they divvy up the amount of money that can be made from those things that are sold. So I think usually it would fall in the favor of the financier, this person who bought the boat and paid the men to go on this adventure. They are going to get the majority of whatever profits come out of it, and then the men will get the rest. But this joint venture, this incorporation, sort of is the basis for what we talk about when we talk about corporations, the actual, business as an identity kind of thing. So this, like, they move out, they find a place, that place has resources, spices, or gold or silver, or whatever, humans, and they say, hey, we're here to trade, and we want our country to do business with your country. What would you like? What do you need? And it varies place by place, but they embed, and they started finding out ways to help the local people set up a system to bring whatever resources they want to take back in their boat to the boat. So, like, if you go out and, you arrange what you need to arrange in your nation to bring these resources to us, then we'll give you whatever you want in exchange, and we'll take that. So it's on in many cases, the colony to set up the systems that allow for wealth extraction. And what that means, what that does, is it sets up a very pyramid-like structure within that colonized nation, because whoever it is that they're making the deal with is going to, everything's going to pass through their hands. So they're going to do their best to manipulate that, right? Take something for themselves. Plus, everything that's coming in exchange is going into that centralized person or organization or body's hands. So that means that they have then all the resources that maybe their country might want. Or in some cases, their country doesn't want the resources that they're getting, because the resources that they're getting are weapons. And the weapons then they use to go get more resources from the people. And that's very intense. Sometimes it's like, wait, if we just hold this guy at if we just hold this one guy at gunpoint, then he'll tell everybody to give us stuff. And we don't have to get anything anymore. Like they already have this perfectly extractive system in place. All we have to do is, put pressure on one guy or a small group of people, a parliamentary coup, essentially. And then we can have whatever. Or in some cases, that falls apart, and there's land to be worked, and there's people to work it. There's mines or whatever, or crops. So we'll just go in there and be as brutal as possible and force those people to work the land or mine in the mines, and then we'll take the things, and if anybody says anything about it, then we'll just genocide them. So anyway, this is history paints a picture about this kind of activity. It really does. It's dark. It's really dark. When you hear about things that are extractive, it should conjure to in your mind the absolute worst of human history. The opposite of that is inclusive, where people make value that they then somehow enjoy. Uh, that's rare. It's rarer, but definitely much better. And inclusive societies tend to go hand in hand with pluralist societies, and extractive societies tend to go hand in hand with authoritarian rule. So anyway, if you're going to succeed in this game, you need an extractive system. And so what happens once the value has been extracted, once the wealth has been extracted? People are paid as little as possible. We've hired as few of them as possible. We've given them as few benefits as possible. The product is as garbage as we could possibly get it. We spend as little money as possible on R&D, and we sell the product for as much as we possibly can. We've literally made this as price efficient as it can possibly be. Any value in the entire system is going straight to the top. Now what? What is that? What happens to it up there? Well, most people don't know, because most people don't own shares or don't trade shares. I mean, they have 401ks or something, but that's kind of just a way, I think, to get people to buy in on this process. If everybody's got some stocks, then it can't possibly be a bad thing, right? Especially because they're very slowly generating money for you to then retire on, until they don't. Because somebody up there was fiddling with something. We don't really understand why or how or what the result is, except that our 401ks have disappeared. But it's okay, because they're getting bailed out because they're too big to fail, and now everybody's going to have money again, so it's probably fine. All right, so somewhere up there are some monkeys on keyboards. Just a few of them. I'm not talking about the ones that are currently writing Shakespeare. I'm talking about, there's a few guys behind closed doors who are doing some stuff. Good stuff, bad stuff, we don't really know. It's stuff. People are passing money back and forth. Lots of money, big money, other people's money. And they're gambling with it, I guess, is what's happening. They're gambling. They're gambling with it. Because sometimes they really do a big boo-boo and they gamble real bad, and we have to give them all of our tax money too to solve it. So they're gambling. The stock market is a casino, unless it's not. There are some cases where, you go into a casino, it's like, all right, well, I'm doing the best I can with the information I have. I've got a jack, he's got a 7, I have some information here, and I'm going to bet some money on it. Doesn't mean that I'm 100% right, but maybe if I try to make some good decisions, then I'll come out ahead. Problem is, so that I might be talking about an individual investor, or I might be talking about somebody who is an advisor to other investors who manages the accounts of their customers. That is a managed account. Somebody looks at it and actually makes decisions intelligently. Those gamblers who know better, who run managed accounts, should, to some degree, if this is an intelligible process, then they should do better than the average person. However, there was a study about, I don't remember who did it or what it was, but you can probably Google it, about managed accounts, the performance of managed accounts, which are some advisor who really knows what they're doing, is managing accounts on behalf of other paying customers who are paying this person to make good choices with their money because they're an expert. Those managed accounts don't outperform a cat choosing stocks by licking toys or something. It literally is a cat could outperform 50% of these managed accounts, which to me feels still 100% like gambling. Still feels very solidly in the realm of gambling. Okay, so let's say everybody's gambling. Let's just say people, who have nothing better to do or way too much money, hang out up there and gamble. That's probably fine, right? Except that again, this is all of the money that everybody has made for all of these companies going out the back door. So you have all of these companies that are as much as possible, and it's all going out the back door, and all of the back doors lead to the exact same place, which is the stock market. And that's where all this gambling takes place. And it's not just like people buying and selling shares in companies, it's these firms and these funds. And, as an example, you have your company is about to go public. And let's say in this case, it's because you need some money to make some sort of business move that your current budget doesn't allow you to, your current cash flow doesn't allow you to make. But as soon as you make this decision, as soon as you make this purchase investment, you're going to do a lot better as a company. You're going to perform a lot better. So you really need to do this. It's a timely thing for you to do. So you go to a firm and you say, I want to make an initial public offering. I want to sell 5% or 10% of my company to shareholders. And as your firm is going to tell you how much they think that is worth. They're going to give you a certain amount of money. They're going to sell a certain amount of shares to the public and representing that money. And they'll control how many shares they're going to pick and what the starting price is for those shares. And you, as the business owner, you get your loan. So let's say you're going to sell 10% of your company, and they're going to give you $10 million, which means they have what? $10 million means they'll have 100 shares of $100,000 shares of $100 each, right? 100,000 shares of $10 each would be $1 million. 100 shares of $100 each would be 10 million. Yeah, so 100,000 shares at $100 each is going to be the IPO. And you, the business owner, you're going to get $10 million for your trouble, and that's going to allow you to go make the purchase that you wanted to make, so that your company is now in an even better position for you and for your shareholders. All right, so now what's the firm going to do? The firm is going to find its best brokers, and it's going to give those shares to its best brokers, and it's going to say, hey, you're our best brokers, which means you're literally the most connected people we have. We're going to give you the privilege of getting these shares out the door. Okay, so we just gave this guy $10 million for these shares, so you're going to take these shares and you're going to sell them to somebody else. And I know you can do it because you're the best brokers we have. Please get these out the door as quickly as possible so we can have our money back. And the brokers do that. And in order for the brokers to do that efficiently and effectively, they don't want to make 100,000 calls, right? God, no way. They wouldn't be top performers if they were making 100,000 calls. They want to make 3 calls. They want to call their 3 biggest, fattest, richest friends and say, hey, I need to move some stuff. And that guy is going to say, or girl is going to say, yeah, all right, I'll take 50,000 shares. Sounds good. Thank you. And so that person buys 50,000 shares. It's very, very, very important in this process that somebody is there on the other end to eat those shares as soon as that company goes public. Very important. The firm does not want to hold on to those shares. The firm wants to get those out the door into somebody else's hands so that they don't have the risk when the thing goes public. The firm is not going to be absorbing risk. That's not their job. Their job is just to accrue a fee for facilitating the transaction. They don't want, like the thing goes public and then the company actually sucks. They overvalued it somehow. No, the company, they don't want that risk. They want them out the door. So it's very important that there's rich people on the other side to absorb all of that stock immediately. They're going to give it to their best brokers because their best brokers can move the stock fastest. The best brokers are going to give the stock, sell the stock to their fattest, richest customers because they're the ones that are going to get the stock out the door with the least amount of effort. All right, all very well and good, right? And you can see that the rich guy on the other end is a very important part of this process working effectively. Now what happens? They go live. Initial public offering. And the guy got $10 million for his 100,000 shares. And he's going to go spend his $10 million. But guess what? And his shares opened at $100 each. But guess what? As soon as the bell rings and things are open, the shares are like $280 each. because people are excited and this is really cool, and everybody's always really pumped about a promising company making an initial public offering. So those rich guys who bought all the shares, because this is how the process works, are just going to turn around and sell what they just bought for $100 each for $280 each. Because as a thank you for facilitating this process, right? Like I said, they're an integral part of this process. Being rich is important for this process to work. And as a reward for being rich, you will be paid a lot of money. Every time, okay? That's how this works. So the way all of this works is if you are rich, if you have a lot of money, if you have the most money, you will be given a lot of money. You will be given the most money, okay? So if you want to make a lot, if you want to be the American who makes the most money, all you need to do is be the American who has the most money. Okay? That's how it works. That's how the system works. Okay. So where did I leave off? Why was I explaining all that? Where the hell am I in this conversation? I was trying to explain what the stock market is. All right, so at the base, at its very base, stock market is two things. Suck all of the money as possible out of every transaction, every interaction, every job, every product that you possibly can. Shoot it to the top. At the top, there's an initial public offering. Stocks go live. They can be publicly traded, and as soon as that happens, whoever has the greatest capacity to absorb and buy those stocks gets the majority of the value out of those shares. So it's like there's a magnet up here. No, a black hole. It's like there's a black hole up here, and it just sucks everything up, all of the pipes, into that black hole. And the black hole just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And everything else gets smaller and smaller and smaller. That's what the system is. That's what it does. All right. So as if that wasn't bad enough, what are those people up to? Well, they're risk junkies, I guess, or they're high on power. I don't know. They've got some systems in place that allow for even more shenaniganery, and those shenanigans have caused us to crash a couple of times. It's caused the whole thing to fall apart because they are they are living in a world of risk, and that world of risk has real material consequences for the entire system. So one example of that was the 2008 housing market crash, where the subprime mortgages were being brought up into more attractive loans, and then everything was being built up on top of that, and it all sort of fell apart because people were taking on much more risk than it could ever actually be realized in profit. Now we might be in a situation that's a little bit similar to that. One of the things that the GameStop situation has taught us is that some companies, some hedge funds, and again, I didn't know this, but many people did know this already, and hopefully the general public is coming to a better awareness of this. Some companies have the power, some firms or some funds have the power to short a company and choke it to the point that they can literally drag it down and bankrupt it. You can bet against a company, and the price of the cost of their shares will go down when you bet against them. And when it goes down to a certain point, the company can't actually keep its doors open. So you can short the crap out of these things and make a whole bunch of money, a much higher percentage back than you could if you were just buying shares and the company grew. This is a very dirty trick. It's high risk because you're betting in such a way that you can gain or lose a lot more money than your initial investment. So there's a lot of risk involved. But it's a way that these companies that have a lot of money can throw their weight around and force the market to respond in the way that they choose. And it's not just, turns out it's not just that they will point a money cannon at a company and sink it. They'll go tell people that they're pointing a money cannon at the company. What was it? Citron? Is Citron the company that was saying that they're going to stop running their short blog or whatever it's called? Like, I don't know what it's called. They do a report where they talk about, hey, we're shorting this company. As a way to let people know, feel free to get on board or whatever, because we are going to manipulate the market, and we're going to sort of do a pump and dump. Only it's like a reverse, a dump and pump. And you are welcome to be a part of it if you would like. So illegal as hell for a bunch of different reasons, and risky as hell, and even worse. We're getting deeper. We're going deeper. They might be doing this to the tune of more shares than exist. They might be shorting companies by promising to purchase more shares than the company has. Which they can't do, which wouldn't be possible. So one of the thoughts, and I don't know how much I should entertain this or not, but the GameStop is supposedly shorted like 140%. They already sold 140% of the stocks that exist for GameStop. So in order to close out their position, I don't get it. If GameStop didn't go bankrupt, didn't go under, what's the exit strategy there? I don't get it. There's still much more of this I don't get. All right, but now you have a whole bunch of individual retail traders who own shares in GameStop, and not only is that really bad for the folks who shorted it, because they might have to pay an astronomical amount of money back. Sorry, because they might have to pay a lot of money back because the shares went up. You might have to pay an astronomical amount of money back if the shares don't exist to buy back, which they don't, because it's shorted 140%. So there's literally no way for them to exit their position, right? Right? Anyway, all right. So the hedge funds are scrambling to cover, and that means they have to have an increasing amount of money in their account to demonstrate that they can pay to close their short position. And in order to do that, they have to divest from other accounts, which means you're going to start seeing some immense drops in other places where those companies have invested. So this could crash the stock market. Depending on how big it is. Now, again, like what, $2 or $3 billion is not the whole stock market, obviously. I think I read that Schwab does like $1 trillion or more in holdings. It's a much bigger game than our GDP. What else was I going to say about that? So what happens? Well, it depends. It depends on how difficult it's going to be for this to unwind. Melvin Capital is owned by Citadel LLC. Who knows what Citadel LLC does or is in? If they own Melvin Capital, then that must mean that they are larger than Melvin Capital. Who else do they own? What else do they own? Where else do they have investments? And what's going to happen to those investments as a result of this? What could change? All right, so there's another complicated, I guess, pseudo-conspiracy theory out there that I saw today that made me giggle a little bit. It might be that GameStop has been so abused Sorry, I shouldn't say specifically just GameStop. GameStop is the one that we know about right now. I should say all companies, right? Because if you shine the light on one company, and that one company seems to be doing something shady, or sorry, not that company, not GameStop, the firms and the funds doing something shady with that one company's stock because you shine the light on that one, chances are they're doing it. That means that so far out of the stocks you've checked, 100% are shady, right? So that could mean. What if the retail traders own more than 100% of the stock? Then what? Sort of an irreconcilable position, right? The rules have been so fundamentally abused. Anyway, I'm starting to get too tired to talk about this anymore. I didn't mean to spend the whole time talking about what the situation was. I meant to spend more of the time talking about what to do about it. It's my hope. I mean, things are going to get nasty. Things are going to get nasty. I mean, what happens if everybody, just the firms and the funds together, decide, let's close everybody's account. Let's just take everybody out of GameStop. No retail trader owns GameStop anymore. Goodbye, you're done. I mean, what the hell did Robinhood was up with Robinhood this past week? That's illegal as hell. So why not just continue to do illegal, shady crap, right? Why not just push everybody out of their position? And we'll worry about this when it comes time to go to court. And they'll be guilty as hell, sure, but maybe they'll pay a fine. Maybe they'll pay a $50 million fine, or I don't know, what's reasonable? $2 million? $500 million? Okay. This is why I said last week, like, if the penalty for breaking a law is a fine, it just means it's legal if you're rich. The amount of money that could be messed up here for funds or firms far exceeds whatever slap on the wrist, even if it's a nuclear slap on the wrist. It would be less than whatever this is if it ran its course. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like, right? Why not? Why not? This is not an arena where people have you're beyond the pale. You're in their world now. You don't have Miranda rights here, right? This is not. If you die here, you die in real life. As Mr. Jensen said in Network to Howard Beale, you have messed with the fundamental laws of nature. All right, moving on. So who knows what to expect? Who knows? Who knows? Just expect the worst. Be happy if all they take is your money. So next, what if somehow the retail investors actually cash out? What if some of them cash out? What if some of them walk away with more money than they know what to do with? What if they win, even if it's like a symbolic, hollow victory, but they all collectively come out with a little more money than they did before? What then? Well, I know they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again, and there's a couple different ways that could go. They're going to do it again. All right, so if you look at who owns the who are the greatest, the largest shareholders of GameStop. GameStop largest shareholders. The top holders of GameStop stock are Fidelity owns 9.5 million stocks. RC Ventures LLC owns 9 million stocks. BlackRock Institutional Trust Company owns 8 million stocks. The Vanguard Group Incorporated owns 5 million stocks. Susquehanna International Group LLP owns 4.5 million stocks. Dimensional Fund Advisors LP own 4 million stocks. Sinvest Management LLC own 3.5 million stocks. Foss Donald A. Oh, that might be a guy. Owns 3.5 million stocks. State Street Global Advisors owns 2.6 million stocks. Sherman George E. Jr. owns 2.3 million stocks. Those are going to be the winners. These will be the winners. Whenever things happen where it moves from like not squoze to squoze, these folks will be able to make a transaction within like 0.0001 microseconds, and they will be out. They will be out, and they will take immediately whatever value is there that would change in the value of the stock between the selling of between 2 and 10 million stocks shares. So they will be the winner. So I am imagining, Fidelity being the primary winner in this case. Lots of money. You think about people who own like 5 shares of GameStop, right? And it went from $40 a share to currently around $400 a share. Fidelity owns 10 million shares. They own 14% of the shares that are out there. They'll take the money. They'll take the money. Anyway, so the money's not. It's probably not going to all down to the individual people, but hopefully the individual people the retail investors will walk away with some amount of money more than they started with. That would be nice. But if we're talking about like the to the moon situation, it's not going to be like 70,000% of their investment. If it ever gets to that point, that money is going to these people. And that's more money than exists, right? You're talking about like a kid in his basement investing $300 and then waking up a millionaire the next day. Well, what about Fidelity? Fidelity invested times 40. So what is that? Fidelity invested $380 million. Fidelity invested $400 million. So if that goes up by how much percent are we saying? What are they at now? Well, let's say 2,000%. Then Fidelity walks away with 1,000 million billion 760 trillion. Is that right? 1,000 million. Oh, 760 billion. One more time. 760 billion. All right, 760 billion. It's just $760 billion that they walk away with from this one transaction. All right, so if that happens, then obviously, like I said, if the retail investors walk away having succeeded, popping that big bubble and sticking it to Citadel and Melvin, and then, the immediate rug gets pulled out of them and all of these companies take collectively well over $1 trillion, 2 trillion, $3 trillion, the top 10, I don't know, together. If that's almost $1 trillion, that's almost $1 trillion, that's almost $1 trillion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 trillion. If these top 10 all exit after it's gone 2,000% of where it started at the end of last year, that's a big carpet to pull out from under those retail investors, right? So they'll probably be upset. I mean, they might be broke actually, but they'll probably be upset. But anyway, it will still be a victory because they still will have stuck it to the people that they stuck it to. The proof is in the pudding. They did some collective action and it worked. It just so happened that they got sold out on the other end. All right, so Then what happens? They're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. And who are they going to do it to? They're going to do it to the people that took the money from them, right? They're going to look for an opportunity to say like, hey, look, this guy took $760 billion of our money that we squeezed out of this hedge fund. Let's go take it. Come on, guys. Let's get back in. Let's get our money back. Take what little you have left and let's keep fighting. Because they're going to do it again one way or another. Now, the other thing that if nobody's paying attention to that, the other thing that they might instead do is just look and see, all right, how did this work in the first place? This worked in the first place because companies were immensely shorted. So they'll just, do it in order of what's the publicly available information on the most shorted companies, and we'll start there. That's probably more pragmatic because it is going to guarantee them more consecutive victories. But again, this is going to make it kind of clear that the victory is meaningless. The money is not going anywhere. It's staying in the hands of those couple of funds and firms. So, do they go whale hunting? Do they do it for vengeance? And if they do decide to go after Fidelity. They find some way in which Fidelity is involved in some significant short. Then guess what? Other funds and firms are going to get it behind them and cheer them on and invest with them. And when they win, pull the rug out from under them. So this is like being a militia fighting in the Middle East behind, either for the Soviet Union or the United States. Like you don't win. You just fight. You don't win, you just fight. So we know that if this is at all successful, these folks are going to keep doing it. We don't know what exactly people's reasons for doing this are, so we're not sure if they're going to go the more pragmatic route of, here's the list in order of companies that are most obscenely shorted, or if they're going to go the revenge route and say they took this from us and so let's get it back. But either way, that's an endless path and it'll last forever, and they'll be embroiled in continual financial war, of which they will probably be the only major casualty. So what else? Two other things I see happening. One is, they keep whaling. Two, if it works, they will keep doing it. So that's number one out of three. Number two is many of these people seem intent to donate to charity. There will be a lot of charitable acts that come out of this. People who do walk away with more money than they know what to do with, or maybe just more money than they started with. Even if they do kind of have an idea what to do with it, they will probably see this as being, important that they donate to charity. And I think that's good because, the lower you go, the lower a start you can make for money making its way into the economy, the more that money will generate more economic activity. Because as you all know, we live in a trickle-up economy. There's a giant magnet / black hole at the top, and money moves toward it. So it trickles up. So think of GameStop. GameStop, you buy a game, it's new. You play the game. You gave $60 to GameStop, okay? And then now you're done with that game, so you're going to sell that game. So GameStop's going to give you $27 back, and GameStop puts it on the shelf, and it's now $45. And somebody gives their $45 for that game, and they take it home and they play it, and they sell it back to GameStop for $12, and then GameStop puts it back on the shelf for $20, and somebody pays $20 for it, and so the every time there's a transaction, more money has passed through the economy. There's been more economic activity. Money moves places. People get paid. People take their salaries and go to the grocery store and buy groceries, and they eat it. Like all of this good stuff happens as money moves around, and the lower money starts, the more it moves around, because again, the higher it starts, the closer it starts to the top, the more it's just going to make its way to that black hole and stay there. So, if you can take it from an individual to a grocery store, and then from the grocery store to the farmers, and from the farmers to local community, and local community to conglomerate to firm, I don't know how money moves. I don't know how money moves, obviously. But it's if you invest in charity, then if you take money out of this top place and put it at the bottom, by the time it makes its way back up there again, it will have generated more in economic activity than it is worth. So it is good that these people look at this charitably and take their money and give it to whoever they possibly can in the most meaningful way toward folks who are destitute. So that's good. So charity is good, and I think that these are charitable people, and I think it's an important arm of the overall effort and movement. So step one, they're going to go whaling. I don't know how that works. I don't know what the smart way to do that is. I don't know how the landscape's going to change, because the landscape's going to change for sure. Legislation's going to change. Robinhood is hiring for somebody to go to Congress and start bartering with them on what these laws should be, right? Because again, if they can just snap their fingers and say, look, what we want to do is save the economy from nuclear meltdown, and we just want to close these people's accounts. Can we get your assurance that you'll just slap us on the wrist if we do that? So landscape will change. One way or another, landscape is going to change. So I'm not sure what this is going to look like, but Wall Street Bets seems to be pretty competent at making strategies on the fly and describing things to one another. It's really nice when you're working with a GPU instead of a CPU. 1,000 monkeys on typewriters are much better at innovative thinking than a single genius. It's just straight up fact. I'm sorry. Their innovation is the result of a bunch of idiots. It always has been. Bunch of crazies, I guess I should say. A bunch of crazies will give you innovation. A couple geniuses will not. At least not as consistently and not as wildly. They'll typically give you more of the same, maybe a little better. Especially if they have a position to maintain. Anyway, moving on. Number 3 is there will need to be a more organized something if this is going to actually change things. Because like I said, just doing what they're doing, the whaling, it's a zero-sum game. They're going to be stuck in that loop forever. If they even can continue, there's no end to it. There's no benefit. The middle part, charity, okay, cool. If they are able to take a little bit of value out of that moving forward and give it to charity, by all means, please do. But the third thing is somehow this has to turn into something, and it's not going to turn into something on its own. For every lobbyist that funds and firms send to Congress, there should also be a lobbyist that this effort sends to Congress, right? They should hire some people. They should hire some people that know law. They should hire some people that do lobbying. They should hire some people that are able to work with our representatives in the state institutions, so that we can have advocates for individuals in society, for the common man, for the people who they're meant to represent, but don't. We all know it. So some sort of funding of a think tank where you can have people who are ideating about how to influence legislation and how to turn things around, and have people actually go and participate and do that. Have people involved on payroll who know finances, who know investments, who know how stocks and funds and firms work, who can contribute to the conversation, and some sort of plan to keep everybody informed and communicating with one another. Because as of right now, they're all using a subreddit, and it's not a tenable solution. It's not going to stay. That's going to be broken up or sunk, in some way confused or confounded or closed, and there will need to be some better means for people to be able to donate their time and energy and thoughts to communicating about this. Like I said, you need those monkeys on typewriters if you're going to stay ahead of the game. Keeping them involved is crucial. So they need to have what they should do is this third effort is everybody should invest some money toward, let's stay on top of this problem. Either a campaign or a nonprofit putting up some sort of online donations portal as close as possible to when people start cashing out, right? So that it's obvious that this is part of the next step, the next phase. And in that organization, you put people who understand law and are involved in the legislative process or can be sent to be involved in the legislative process, people who understand finances and trading and investments and have them, participate in the world and expose them to some sort of media machine that allows the experts to talk to common people in mass and allows common people to talk to one another in mass so that the whole thing can sort of stay connected and agile and innovative. That is very much an important part of moving forward. So 3 prongs. It's going to take a lot of money. You're going to need those investors to continue investing so that they can keep whaling. And again, I can't speak to that because I don't know how to do it in a way that that works in that kind of environment. You're going to need to be able to be agile and respond to things everywhere that they happen in the market, in the public forum, and in legislature. And you're going to need some funding in order to make that happen. So that's one prong. And you're going to need to, this needs to have a charitable component. It needs to drive, those two alone, you're just replacing one empire for another. It needs to send the money back down to the bottom. It needs to be part of actively redistributing wealth. All right. Wow. Gee whiz, that was a lot of stuff. Why did I say all that? Monday. It's going to be an interesting week. Good luck, everybody. I hope you enjoy this. I hope it gives you hope. I hope it gives you energy and excitement. I hope it helps you realize that things can be better. And I have a lot of reading to do because I'm still speaking from a position of ignorance with respect to a lot of things, not least of which is, like I said, I started reading yesterday. I think I said this. A friend sent me that Dark Side of Democracy, the demos and ethnos thing. If you don't know what that is, then I don't know, watch the last video, I guess. But there's a lot to learn. There's always more to learn. There's always more to learn. And like I said last time, if you want a place to start, go to Wikipedia and look up the words liberal and conservative and click all the links. Okay, thanks everybody. I hope you have a good evening and happy hunting. Good night.